Welcome to Eerie Archives. Here, we don't just tell stories, we unearth them. Tales whispered in the dark, files forgotten by time, and voices that were never meant to be heard again. Each week, we open the vault and pull from the shadows a true account, a chilling legend, or a first-hand encounter that defies reason. So if you're drawn to the strange, the haunted, and the unexplained, go ahead, like, subscribe, and open the archive.
Pulpit of Bones.
I was never supposed to return here. Sanctum Nocturne was a place built for worship, yes, but not for God. Not really. You could feel it in the stones, in the silence between the hymns. The sermons echoed too long. The candles burned too slow. The air smelled of old blood and myrrh, even after years had passed. They say no one builds cathedrals like this anymore. Good. I arrived just before dusk. The city was dying around it. Tenement husks, broken windows, streets cracked like old skin. But the cathedral still stood. Black, towering, silent. I wasn't here to pray. I came to finish what we started. The great doors groaned open, their hinges crying out like something being exhumed. The nave was darker than it should have been. My flashlight barely cut through the gloom. The stained glass high above was melted in places, like it had wept under fire. The altar was cracked. The pews were missing. Only the pulpit remained. And below it, the opening, the ossuary. When I was young, Father Merrick told us the crypts were sacred. He said they held the bones of saints. He lied. The stairs down were slick with condensation, or maybe something older. I descended slowly, whispering the rite to myself, the one they taught us in secret. Sanctify the blood. Speak only once. Descend with hollow hands. The deeper I went, the less the flashlight mattered. The darkness became alive. The walls were made of bones, skulls stacked in patterns, femurs arranged into arches, symbols I didn't recognize carved into jawbones. Some of the bones were wrong, twisted, as if they'd grown that way, bent to fit the walls. And then I heard it. A voice I hadn't heard in 20 years.
You left us.
I froze. It was Father Merrick, as if he hadn't been dead for decades. But, you're dead. He stepped closer to me.
Number just buried, like everything else you abandoned.
I turned a corner and entered the central chamber, the ossuary chapel. At its heart stood the pulpit, sculpted entirely from bones. Still intact, still waiting, and behind it, the congregation. Figures seated in silence, shrouded, dozens of them, heads bowed. They didn't move. But I knew they were not statues. I'm not afraid of you, I whispered.
Then why are you shaking like a wet dog?
He stepped out of the shadows. Not aged, not decayed, preserved. Like the moment he died had frozen in him. Skin stretched tight, mouth full of dirt.
You were the final one, the last disciple. The choir cannot rise without its voice.
We were meant to cleanse this place.
You misunderstood. The fire wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to awaken.
He pointed to the pulpit.
Preach, or remain among the silent.
The congregation lifted their heads, slowly, all at once. Every face was missing. Blank bone, empty sockets.
And each of them was me.
Versions of myself, some younger, some older, all rotted in different ways. One of them spoke.
You never left, James. You only dreamed you did.
I stumbled backward, knocking over a skeletal candelabra. The bones screamed, not cracked. Screamed, like living things. The pulpit pulsed. Yes, pulsed, as if it had a heartbeat. This place is wrong. It was always wrong.
Then why do you remember every word of the sermon?
My throat burned. I tried to run, but the stairs were gone. The tunnel twisted behind me like a wound closing. I collapsed, fell to my knees, and then I heard it. The hymn, not sung aloud, but inside me, in my marrow.
Rise, O flock, from ash and bone. Speak the name that is not known.
I opened my mouth to scream, but I preached instead. I don't remember leaving. I woke up in my apartment. No dirt on my shoes, no footage on my camera. Only one thing remained. A single vertebra placed neatly on my desk, and carved into it, in letters so small I almost missed them. Speak again. We are listening.
Ashes beneath the altar.
I should have turned back the moment I saw the birds. They weren't flying. They were just lying there. A ring of black crows, crumpled and stiff in the grass around the chapel ruins. No wounds, no blood, just dead. Like they'd fallen asleep mid-flight and never woke up. But I was already too far in. St. Elias was number 5 on my list. The 7 forgotten shrines of Appalachia. I'd been hunting these for months. Abandoned chapels, ruined monasteries, places where silence had outlived the sermons. In St. Elias, it had the kind of folklore that made clicks skyrocket. The ash baptisms, purification by fire. I stepped through the arched remains of what used to be the main doors. The stone was cold, darker than I expected, almost black, though it hadn't rained in days. The vines growing up the side of the chapel didn't bloom. They twisted. Inside it smelled like soot, dry soot, like an old fireplace that hadn't been lit in decades, but still remembered the flames. My boots crunched over cracked tile and broken glass, the beams above creaking softly, though there was no wind. I flicked on my flashlight. The air caught the beam like it was full of dust, except the particles weren't floating. They hung there, perfectly still. I reached out. They moved aside like I was parting cobwebs. And then I heard it, a cough from beneath the altar. I froze. Now, I knew this place was empty. I'd parked a mile back. No other cars, no fresh footprints in the dirt, no signs of wildlife. Just me and the dead birds. So the cough, rough, wet, too human, didn't make sense. I approached the altar slowly. It was mostly intact, simple stone, weathered by time. Something was scratched into the surface, half covered by dried leaves and pine needles. I cleared them with a gloved hand. Letters. Repent in fire. My heart kicked harder. Behind the altar was a trap door. Not just a part of the floor, it was built in. Iron handles blackened and scorched around the edges. I recorded everything, whispering into the camera like I always did. Part of me hoped this was stage, some elaborate prank by another explorer maybe. But the air down here, it stank like mold and charred bones. I opened it. The hinges screamed. A stairwell spiraled downward into blackness. No light, no air movement. Just a yawning mouth beneath a ruined chapel. I descended. 10 steps, then 20. Then the flashlight flickered, and I heard it again. Not a cough this time, a whisper, close.
He burns for you.
I whipped around. No one. The stone walls were too narrow for anyone to hide. The air shifted, warmer now. And then I saw the chamber, small, circular. Black soot smeared the stone like smoke trails. In the center, a stone bowl, filled with ash. I approached it, breath tight in my chest. My fingers shook as I aimed the light. There were bones in the bowl, tiny ones, and teeth, human teeth. Something scratched behind me. I spun. Nothing. The whisper again.
Repent.
My flashlight cut out. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen. Long enough for the silence to get heavy, like it had weight. I reached for my backup flashlight, dropped it. My fingers weren't working right. Everything smelled like burning wood now, like a campfire under my skin. Then I heard it. The sound of footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate. I grabbed the flashlight and bolted up the stairs, each step screaming under my boots. I burst out into the nave. It was pitch black. Night had fallen while I was down there. And in front of the altar, something was kneeling, not a person. Too thin, too long. Its skin glowed like dying coals. I stumbled back. It raised its head. No eyes, no face, just a smooth surface. Burned, cracked. Smoke rolled off it in ribbons, and it spoke.
You came for the story. Now carry it.
The doors behind me slammed shut. The pews erupted in fire. Silent fire. No crackle, no heat, just light and ash swirling upward. I screamed, ran, through the flames, through the smoke. I don't remember how I got out. I only remember the birds. Now they were gone. No corpses, no feathers. Just a ring of soot around the chapel. I never posted that video. When I checked the footage later, all of it was static, except for one clear frame. The trap door, closed. With me kneeling in front of it, eyes burned out, mouth full of ash.
Where the children sing.
I used to think memory was solid, that if you looked at it closely enough, long enough, it would hold still for you. Stay true. But memory's a trickster. It's shadows on fog. Just when you think you've pinned it down, it shows you something new. I hadn't been to Corbin Hollow in over 20 years. The last time I was here, I was 10. Joey was 3. And Dad, well, Dad was still Dad back then. We came back because of the letter. Handwritten, no return address. Come home. I found what I was looking for. The chapel still sings. That was all it said. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Joey didn't remember much about the place. He just clutched that old stuffed lamb of his. the one with one eye and a head full of loose stitching, and stared out the window as we drove deeper into the hills. The town was gone. Rotting shells of houses. Mine entrances half swallowed by the earth. Trees growing right through the floors of old buildings. Nina met us by the trailhead. She didn't smile much.
You really sure you want to find this church? Locals don't go near it.
Why not?
They say you can still hear singing, even when it's empty.
That's the thing. It's not empty.
She glanced at him and hesitated.
Right.
We hiked in silence after that. The chapel of the Blessed Lamb stood at the edge of the hollow, barely upright. The wood was gray and splintering. The stained glass windows were warped. Images of lambs and children, their eyes wide and unblinking. Inside, the pews were short, child-sized. The entire chapel, now that I looked, was built for children. Even the pulpit, even the altar. Like we'd stepped into a Sunday school from some other century. Joey wandered toward the front, his footsteps muffled in the dust. Joey, stay close.
They remember me.
Nina and I exchanged a look. The air inside was heavy, not foul, just thick, like breathing water. There was something carved into the beams overhead. Dozens of names, children's names. I ran my fingers along them as I passed, some familiar. I knew these kids, some of them, from when I was little.
Marla, are you sure?
Then I found my own name, twice. Once carved deep and clean. The second, burned into the wood. Joey was sitting on the floor now, rocking, humming, a tune I hadn't heard since I was a child.
Come, little lambs, the hour is near. Lay down your eyes, there's nothing to fear.
I began to shake. Joey, where did you hear that?
You used to sing it when the lights went out, before they took us downstairs.
My stomach turned. I remembered that tune, but not the words, not the reason. Nina approached the altar, brushed the dust off what looked like a wooden panel, a trapdoor.
We shouldn't.
But Joey was already moving.
I remember the stairs.
We followed him down. The basement was cold. The air changed, got tighter, like it was pressing against us from all sides. The walls were lined with benches, more names carved into the wood, scratched into the floor, some names repeated again and again. At the center of the room, a small baptismal font. Water still inside, still, clear. Joey approached it and dipped his fingers in. He whispered,
They made us drink.
Joey, what are you talking about? Drink what?
He said it would keep us small, keep us pure.
That's when I remembered the prayers, the soft lullabies, the cloaked figures. I remembered hiding Joey behind the pulpit when they came down the stairs. I remembered screaming and no one listening. Nina turned to me, pale.
Marla, there's someone behind you.
I spun. A shadow stood at the foot of the stairs, wearing robes, no face, just a smooth, glistening surface where its features should have been. I blinked. It was gone. Joey stood now, head tilted.
You said you'd protect me.
The lamb in his arms was bleeding, its stuffing soaked red. Joey, that's not real. None of this is real.
Then why do you remember?
The voices began to sing. Software children's voices. Sleep now, lambs. Don't make a sound. The blessed lamb will lay you down. Nina screamed and ran for the stairs. I didn't follow. I couldn't move. Joey looked up at me, eyes wide. Joey, softly. I never left, Marla. I've been waiting down here the whole time. When I woke up, I was lying alone in the church. It was morning. The air was clean. No sign of Joey or Nina. Just the silence. I ran outside, back down the trail, back to the car. There was no one. The sheriff found me on the roadside that afternoon. I must have looked mad. Kept saying, "He's still down there. My brother's still in the chapel." But the town was gone. The chapel was gone. Just trees and wild grass. No structures at all. I go back sometimes. The melody still plays in my head. The lamb still bleeds in my dreams. And sometimes I hear Joey's voice, not as a boy, but as a man, still singing, still waiting for me to come back.
Voices in the choir loft.
I never believed the stories, the ones about Hollow Glen, about how All Saints Church was the last thing left standing after the town just vanished. People said the mine poisoned the water, others blamed a fire, a few whispered about a sickness, but not the kind that kills your body, the kind that eats your mind. Jess and I were already a few days into our trip when she brought it up.
Come on, Alex, one stop, creepy old church in a ghost town? It's perfect road trip content.
I shrugged. As long as we're out before dark. Famous last words. The church looked like something out of a black and white horror film. All tall spires and broken stained glass. The roof sagged in the middle like it was bowing under its own weight. Vines wrapped around the bell tower like veins. We parked on what used to be a gravel road, now more weeds than stone, and stepped out into the hot silence. Not even crickets, just wind and dust.
Why does it feel wrong here?
I didn't answer. Inside, it was cooler. The pews were cracked and scattered, as if someone had thrown a tantrum mid-sermon. Torn Bibles littered the floor. A long carpet stretched down the aisle, stained dark like dried blood. But it was the choir loft that drew our attention. It was high above the altar, hidden in shadow, but I swore I saw something move up there. Just a flicker, like robes rustling. Jess must have seen it too.
Was that?
Probably just a bird.
Then why didn't it fly?
We climbed the narrow staircase to the loft, each step creaking under our weight. The railing was rotten. Half the floorboards were missing. And then, a voice, a woman's voice, clear, above us.
Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus.
We froze.
That's Latin, right? Holy.
I nodded slowly. Holy, holy, holy. There was no one up there, just the echo of the chant fading into the rafters. We should have left. We almost did. But then I saw the journal. It was tucked under a warped bench. I opened it. The pages were yellowed and cracked. Handwritten entries, shaky script. Last dated October 14th, 1902. They keep singing, even with their mouths sewn shut. The priest said the choir must not stop. We are the only ones keeping the dark from swallowing this place whole. I turned to Jess, but she was gone. Just gone. I scrambled back down the stairs, calling her name. The nave was empty. A faint melody floated through the church. Soft, high, like children humming. I followed it, through the sacristy, down a narrow hallway. And that's when I found her, kneeling in a side chapel, back to me, head bowed. "Jess? What the hell? Why'd you run off?" She didn't answer. "Jess?" She lifted her head and laughed. Not her laugh, high, hollow, joyless.
The hymn is not finished.
Then she went still, eyes wide, tears running down her cheeks.
Alex, help me. It's inside.
I backed away, tripped over something, a small wooden cross, burnt at the edges. When I looked back, she was standing, but it wasn't Jess anymore. Her smile was wrong, too wide, too calm.
Hosanna in excelsis.
The doors behind her slammed shut. I ran, bolted through the hallway, back into the nave. The organ started to play. No one was there. The pews began to shake, not violently but rhythmically, in time with the music. Dust rose in perfect spirals. I didn't look back. Out the door, into the sunlight. I didn't stop running until I saw the car. It's been 3 days. Jess hasn't answered her phone. When I listen to the voice memos on my recorder, there's chanting underneath our voices. Clear as day, voices in Latin. And on the last recording, just before I ran, you can hear Jess say something that I swear she never spoke out loud.
One must stay, or the choir will fall silent.
And then faintly, my own voice, whispering along with them.
The final confession.
People say when the water gets low enough, you can hear the bell ring, even though there's no one left alive who could ring it. That's what brought me here, to this flooded valley and the edge of Blackwater Lake. The place was a town once, farms, houses, a school, and in the center of it all, Our Lady of Blackwater. A stone church built in 1889, submerged almost overnight when the dam project pushed through. Most of it's underwater now, all except the tip of the steeple, like a gravestone sticking out of the lake. I was filming a series on drowned towns when someone online mentioned it. Said if the lake level dropped low enough in summer, the upper floors of the church breached the surface. Said people had gone inside. Said not all of them came back out. I hired Riley to take me out by boat. He was in his late 30s, tight-lipped, with the kind of eyes that made you feel like you were being measured.
Storm's coming tomorrow. You've got 1 day to look around. After that, you're on your own.
I nodded. That's fine. I just need a few hours of footage. We reached the spire around noon. The tip of the belfry loomed like a sunken monument, moss-covered and dripping. The water was eerily still. Riley didn't tie the boat to the structure. He just held it steady. I adjusted my camera. You're not coming with me?
I was raised out here. I've heard the bell. I ain't stepping foot inside that thing.
He handed me a flashlight and a rope.
Whatever you hear in there, don't answer it.
I climbed into the exposed belfry through a jagged opening where the glass used to be. The floor inside was slick stone. The stairs leading down were visible now, just barely above the waterline. And below them, the sanctuary, dark, echoing, flooded with greenish light. I started filming. Each step echoed. Below the stairs, the pews were waterlogged, half submerged, lined up like rows of forgotten soldiers. The stained glass was murky, but intact, saints warped by water and time. And then I heard it. A voice, faint, male, whispering.
Forgive me, Father. I kept her down too long.
I froze. I whispered back. Hello? Is someone there? Nothing. I kept going. Near the altar, the water was waist deep. Candles floated in slow circles. Wax turned to sludge. There was something at the pulpit. A shape. Hunched over. A man. But he wasn't moving. I sloshed closer, slowly, every step dragging through the water. His back was turned. He wore tattered robes. I cleared my throat. Sir, are you okay? He raised his head, but didn't turn. And in a voice like cracked stone, he whispered,
She's still down there.
Then he sank, slowly, no splash, no panic, just dissolved into the water like ash in a basin. Gone. I backed away. Something touched my leg. I looked down. Fingers, pale, reaching from beneath the pews. I bolted, heart slamming against my ribs, sloshing through the water toward the stairs. But the stairs were gone. Submerged. I spun around, flashlight shaking. The whole sanctuary was darker now, like the water had risen by inches in seconds. The bell above me began to ring. 1 toll. 2. Each one deeper than the last, like it echoed from the bottom of the lake. And then, voices. Dozens of them. Whispering, chanting. Some in English, some in Latin.
Confess, confess, the weight will pull you down.
I started screaming for Riley. Somehow, I made it back to the opening in the steeple. He pulled me up, eyes wide.
You answered it, didn't you? Damn it, Evan.
I gasped. There was someone in there, a priest or something, he said.
That wasn't a priest. That was what's left of one.
He shoved the boat off and motored us away. The church shrank behind us. The bell fell silent. That was 3 weeks ago. I've tried to edit the footage, tried to cut around the audio, but no matter what I do, I hear my voice, whispering back to them. Forgive me, Father. I kept her down too long. The same words the ghost said. But I never said them. Did I? I haven't been sleeping. When I turn off the lights at night, my bedroom fills with the smell of lake water and candle wax. And sometimes, when it's quiet, I hear the bell, and it continues to grow louder.
Thank you again for tuning in to the Eerie Archives channel. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment what you'd like to see in the next video. Until next time, stay eerie.